Wedding bells rang for some same-sex couples in New Jersey after the governor gave up appealing a decision legalizing same-sex marriage. Just after midnight on Monday, Newark Mayor Cory Booker, soon to be Senator Booker, opened City Hall to perform some of the state's first gay marriages. 7 couples took wedding vows. New Jersey is the 14th state to permit gay marriage, along with the District of Columbia. And JP Chase agreed to pay a record fine to settle charges that it misrepresented the quality of mortgage-backed securities during the credit boom. The tentative deal of $13 billion sounds big, but as Conway G. Gittins reports, it is only about 1/7 of the company's earnings last year alone.
JP Chase has agreed to pay a record $13 billion to settle investigations stemming from the financial crisis, according to a source. $13 billion, that's roughly just more than 1/7 of the bank's annual sales last year. On that basis, it would only take JP Morgan about a month and a half to raise that cash through revenues alone. But the bank won't even have to wait that long. $23 billion has already been set aside for legal settlements, according to the bank's admission. In terms of quarterly profits, JP Morgan usually pockets about $5 billion to $6 billion, which means the proposed settlement would only eat up a little more than 2 quarters worth of earnings. Consider one more fact. JP Morgan stock gives the company a more than $200 billion market value, which is about 15 times the amount proposed to put some of its legal troubles to bed. This settlement largely deals with bad loans made by Bear Stearns and Washington Mutual, 2 financial institutions JP Morgan rescued during the crisis at the encouragement of the government. Even with the record settlement, CEO Jamie Dimon's legal woes aren't done. America's largest bank still faces criminal probes and investor lawsuits.
And Arise News legal contributor Seema Iyer is with us to give us more information on this story. Hey, Seema. So first of all, I'm struck with the irony of this. So go through the background of how they even got these.
And just as the report just mentioned, it was 80% of the badly acquired securities. Those came from Washington Mutual and from Bear Stearns. So what you're saying, when you're talking about irony, I'm assuming you mean, oh, JP Morgan was so kind-hearted and they acquired these banks, and now they're kind of getting screwed, perhaps?
A little bit. That's what it seems like. And,
Well, tell me what you think, because my personal opinion is there's got to be some more motivation than altruism by a bank. I mean, a bank defines capitalism, right? So I think there perhaps is something else going on at that point when, in 2008, they did acquire these banks.
Oh, well, yeah, I wouldn't always count on altruism on
Right,
the point
especially from a bank.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us about this $13 billion settlement. What does it include?
Well, it includes various civil suits. There's been more than a few civil suits. One includes from New York Attorney General Schneiderman. He has a civil suit, and that would include that. So it's basically like the umbrella that's going to dispose of all these civil lawsuits. One is with the New York Attorney General. Another is with the Federal Housing Finance Authority. And most of the viewers are more familiar with this because of Fannie and Freddie and how the bank, JP Morgan, allegedly misled Fannie and Freddie about the value of these securities. So that's where that comes from. And I think that amount is about $4 billion. So the effort here is trying to help the consumers, the people who bought mortgages, who suffered in the crisis. That's who it's supposed to help.
And supposedly those consumers will get something back.
That is
supposedly.
Right, exactly. So who does this hurt? The shareholders now, right? Because when JP Morgan Chase settles for $13 billion, who's going to suffer? The shareholders.
Yeah, but you know, if you look at their earnings from last year, I don't know that they're going to be hurt all that much. Talk about this amount. Did they expect a settlement for this amount? And it is a big amount by any standard.
It is, and it is being called historic at this point. I believe reports started off with a $9 billion proposed settlement, and then even recently it was $11 billion. So 13 is a much higher number than was originally disclosed.
So should we expect criminal charges? Will they be, the company or the individuals, be facing criminal charges?
You know, I personally, again, my personal opinion here is that $13 billion may be included because of some negotiation going on. What they could do here, which sometimes is done, is you draft a non-prosecution agreement. So, federal government is still investigating criminal charges, okay? And that is separate from this civil lawsuit. What could be done is the civil suit could include a provision saying we are going to stop investigating you. There will be no criminal charges filed. But that is separate. But they can be filed, and it would be, to answer your question, individually. You can't put J.P. Morgan Chase in jail, but you can put people in jail.
Okay, all right. What would the potential charges be?
So there's a few. Fraud is a blanket one, and that would include mail fraud, wire fraud, bank fraud, securities fraud. Most of the violations would be under the securities code, the criminal securities code. And then there are a few other ones. One big one would be conspiracy. And conspiracy, again, could include a type of fraud. And it's basically a bunch of individuals who have the same mindset to commit the same criminal act. And in this case, we've seen that. We've seen that there's so many different individuals who acted fraudulently and issued false statements in the issuance of these mortgage-backed securities.
All right, very briefly and finally, when I was doing the reading, I heard tentative $13 billion settlement if it's finalized. So what's the last step to finalize it?
The last step is actually signing on the dotted line. The last step is always going to court, being in front of a judge, saying we agree on this settlement and what it'll include.
All right.
It's just not signed on the dotted line, not yet.
Yeah, always got to have that John Hancock. All right, Seema, thank you.
Welcome.
See you again.